Well, you'll be unsurprised to learn that today we're doing a slasher movie, as we do a lot of them, but it's a bit of a different kind of slasher. This is a musical slasher, as today, at the Channel Point's Quest of Stale, we're going to look at Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, released in 2007. So the character Sweeney Todd first appeared as the villain of a Penny Dreadful serial, The String of Pearls, all the way back in 1846. The story has since been retold multiple times, but this film is based off a 1970 play called Sweeney Todd, written by Christopher Bond. The film was directed by Tim Burton, who realized a lifelong dream, as he had wanted to do a movie version of this since the 1980s. Fellow director Sam Mendes had been working on a film of Sweeney Todd since 2003, but in 2005 he left the project to direct Jarhead, which ended up being a massive box office disappointment. And thus Tim Burton was able to realize his dream and signed on to direct the film. And of course, when you have Tim Burton direct something, Johnny Depp has to star in it, because those are just the rules. There was some concern with Depp being cast for this one though, as he was not known for his singing, but he took extensive lessons to prepare for the role. Also starring in the film were Helena Bonham Carter, Alan Rickman, Timothy Spall, Sacha Baron Cohen, Jamie Campbell Bower, Laura Michelle Kelly, Jane Weissner, and Ed Saunders. But I just realized I didn't tell you what this film's about. Well, it's pretty simple. There's a barber named Sweeney Todd who returns to the city of London after 15 years of exile. Only it's not actually that simple. He used to be named Benjamin Barker until his wife was taken from him by an evil Judge Turpin and he was wrongly convicted of a crime and exiled. He returns to his old barber shop on Fleet Street, now above a pie shop owned by a Miss Lovett, and the two conspire on revenge. The film premiered right before Christmas on the first day of winter in 2007, despite this being possibly the least Christmassy movie I can possibly think of. That did not hurt its numbers though, as on a budget of $50 million, it made back $153 million at the box office. The film received critical acclaim for the cast, musical numbers, costume and set design, and the faithfulness to the musical. The only real criticism came from the movie's excessive use of blood, which was akin to Tarantino movies. But Tarantino movies are awesome, and so was this. And most critics and audience still agree now, as it's been assessed as one of the greatest musical films of the 21st century. But was Sweeney Todd able to get his revenge? Well, we're going to find out right now as we look at Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street, released in the year 2007. Our film begins in the year 1846, where sailor Anthony Hope arrives in London, singing about how it's the greatest city in the world. His Goth passenger, on the other hand, sings quite a different tale about how London is the worst place in the world. As they leave the ship, Anthony asks his friend what troubles him, and we immediately get his backstory. His name is Benjamin Barker, and 15 years ago he was a barber in London, living with his wife Lucy and their newborn daughter Joanna. His wife was extremely beautiful, but he was not the only one who noticed so. The powerful and evil Judge Turpin wanted her for himself, so he had trumped-up charges brought upon Benjamin and had him exiled from London. Benjamin returns to his old barber shop on Fleet Street, which is situated above a pie shop owned by a Miss Lovett. She's surprised to have a customer as she boasts about having the worst pies in all of London. Benjamin then inquires about the room above her shop, but she says that it's haunted. Not knowing that it's him initially, Miss Lovett tells him about how after he was exiled, his wife was courted daily by the judge and lured to a party where he raped her publicly. As a result, she committed suicide by drinking poison, and Judge Turpin adopted Joanna as his ward. Miss Lovett then puts together that he is Benjamin Barker, but he denies this, saying Benjamin Barker is long dead, and he now goes by Sweeney Todd. Miss Lovett takes Todd up to his old shop, where she reveals that she kept his stainless steel razors by hiding them under the floorboards. Todd sings a song about being happy to be reunited with his razors, while being duetted by Miss Lovett, who is clearly in love with him. He largely ignores her though, and then continues singing about his knives. The next day, Anthony is using a map trying to find a certain part of London and sits down on a bench conveniently right in front of Judge Turpin's house. He then sees Joanna, who is constantly locked in her room, singing for the window, and becomes immediately infatuated with her. A beggar woman then comes up and asks Anthony for change, and Anthony asks her who the woman in the window is. She responds it's Joanna, ward of the evil Judge Turpin, and despite only seeing her for about a minute and not knowing her at all, Anthony then vows to free Joanna and run away together. I think you kinda have to introduce yourself first, dude, but whatever. Anthony wanders by the front door and Judge Turpin steps out and offers him to come inside. Judge Turpin then offers him a drink before revealing that he knows that Anthony was lusting after Joanna. He then tells Anthony, basically, don't try that shit again or else you will die because Joanna belongs to him, and then Turpin's henchman, Beetle Banford, beats the shit out of Anthony. This only strengthens Anthony's resolve, however, as he continues to sing about running away and freeing this woman he's never met. Meanwhile, Sweeney Todd and Miss Lovett go to the market in town. They stumble upon a presentation by a young boy named Toby talking up the barber Adolfo Pirelli. He also tries to flog some of Pirelli's snake oil before Todd shoots it down, saying it smells like piss. This pisses, no pun intended, Pirelli off. He challenges Todd to double down, and he does just that, and also challenges Pirelli to a shave-off. Pirelli begins to work on his shave while singing about the perfect shave, while Todd takes his time preparing. As Pirelli's about to wrap up, however, Todd completes his shave in about 5 seconds and wins the shave-off. Todd has succeeded in impressing everybody there, including Beetle Banford, who tells him that he's going to recommend the judge come to his shop. The next day, Anthony comes lusting over Joanna again, who seems to reciprocate his advances and tosses him a key to her room, presumably. Unfortunately for her, the judge saw all of this through a peephole that he has into her room, which is fucking creepy. Todd, meanwhile, is growing impatient as the judge has not come to his shop yet, but Miss Lovett urges him to wait. Anthony then comes by and shows Todd the key and tells him about his plan to rescue Joanna. He then asks Todd if he can hide Joanna at the barber shop before he arranges transport for them out, and Sweeney's like, yeah, sure. Okay, well, that was easy. Luck's turning. You're about to get your daughter back, except maybe not, because here comes Mr. Pirelli. Uh-oh. Miss Lovett distracts Toby while Pirelli goes up to the barber shop alone, and turns out Pirelli is actually not even Italian. Not only that, but he knows Sweeney Todd is actually Benjamin Barker because he used to be Todd's apprentice 15 years ago. He then tries to blackmail Todd, telling him that he'll be taking 15% of his earnings from here on out, or else he'll reveal his identity. Todd responds by beating him to death with a tea kettle. Toby hears the commotion and runs up to the barber shop, and Todd's able to stuff Pirelli in a chest before he can see. After he coaxes Toby away, he notices Pirelli's not dead, although he is now after he slits his throat. Meanwhile, Judge Turpin informs Beetle Banford of his intentions to marry Joanna, but he's afraid Joanna does not find him attractive. Banford recommends that Turpin get a shave, and luckily, he knows just the barber. Back at the barber shop, Miss Lovett finds out about Pirelli's demise and is initially shocked, although becomes more understanding after finding out about the blackmail attempt. Todd then tells her to bring up Toby so they can kill him too, but she convinces Todd to keep Toby on as her help in the shop. No time for further discussion now, though, as the judge is here. Alright. Todd prepares him for the shave, and yes, he's finally about to get his revenge, which is weird because there's still an hour left in this movie, but who cares? He's got the knife at his throat, and then Anthony bursts through the door, talking about Joanna, and the gig is up. The judge leaves in a rage, and seemingly missing his golden opportunity, Sweeney snaps as well. He sings that he's completely given up on his daughter Joanna and ever seeing her again, and decides that everybody deserves to die. That's great and all, but they need to find out what to do with Pirelli's body. Miss Lovett, however, has an extremely twisted solution, which will benefit them both. Basically, Sweeney can kill in the barber shop, and then they use the bodies and bake them into the pies. That way, Miss Lovett has a thriving pie shop again, and Sweeney gets to satisfy his bloodlust. Meanwhile, Turpin returns home and confirms what he heard Anthony saying, and as a result, has Joanna locked away in a mental asylum. Anthony then begins wandering the streets looking for where they took Joanna, while Sweeney is modifying his chair and setting up a trap door. As Anthony continues the search, Sweeney begins to kill, slicing the throats of his customers and then dropping them into the basement where they'll be baked into pies. After apparent days of searching, Anthony finally finds Joanna in the insane asylum. Simultaneously, Miss Lovett's pie shop has had a huge reopening, feeding everybody human pies, while it's being stalked out by the beggar woman who insists that there's evil and devil work afoot. The next day, seemingly, Miss Lovett and Sweeney are having a picnic in the worst CGI'd background I've ever seen in my entire life. It's revealed to be all in her head, however, as she's dreaming about her future life and possible marriage to Sweeney. Toby is included in her dream as well, as she sees him as a son. Anthony then returns to Sweeney Todd's shop, telling him that he's located Joanna in a mental asylum. And somehow, I'm guessing from his barber history, Sweeney knows that the only way to get in there is by being a wig maker's apprentice, and he instructs Anthony to go do just that. This gives Sweeney another idea, and he writes a letter to Judge Turpin, which he has Toby deliver. Toby has become increasingly suspicious of Sweeney Todd, however, and thinks Miss Lovett is in danger. His suspicions are furthered after he notices that Miss Lovett has Pirelli's money bag, which she says that Todd gave to her. Lovett then randomly decides that it's time for him to see how the pies are made, but it's just a ploy to lock him in the basement. Meanwhile, Anthony, who's posing as a wigmaker's apprentice, goes to the insane asylum where the warden has women sectioned off by hair color. After going into the blonde room and finding Joanna, he pulls a gun on the warden before leaving with Joanna, and the warden is then mauled and killed by the other enraged blonde ladies. Back at the pie shop, Miss Lovett informs Todd that she had to lock Toby in the basement just as Beetle Banford shows up. Banford, who I guess is a city inspector, was informed of rumors that were spread by the beggar lady about a foul smell coming from their chimney. He has to inspect it, but Sweeney Todd convinces him to come up for a shave first. Back in the basement, Toby has a pie before finding a thumb in it. That's gross. He then notices human skeletons across the place and finally sees Beetle Banford's dead body dropped into the basement. Todd and Miss Lovett then search for Toby in the basement and connected sewer. Miss Lovett calls out that nothing bad is going to happen to Toby, but Sweeney's probably going to kill him. Meanwhile, Anthony and Joanna, who's disguised as a boy, aka she's wearing a jacket and a hat, arrive at the barber shop, and Anthony tells her to wait there for 30 minutes while he goes and arranges transport. Looking for Beetle Banford, the beggar lady goes up to the barber shop, which causes Joanna to hide in the trunk. Todd then arrives in the shop, and the beggar lady seems to recognize him from somewhere. However, he then hears Judge Turpin coming, and he quickly slits her throat and sends her into the basement. Turpin comes up, and Todd explains to him that apparently Joanna has repented and is intended on marrying him now. She's apparently on her way. She's actually in the room, she's in the trunk, but they don't know that. And meanwhile, Todd offers him a free shave. And then he finally reveals his true identity as Benjamin Barker before stabbing Judge Turpin right in the fucking jugular and then sending him down to the basement. Joanna then picks a bad time to peek out from the chest, and Sweeney sees her. Not recognizing his own daughter because she's wearing a hat, Sweeney prepares to kill her, but she's saved when he hears Miss Lovett scream. Sweeney then tells her to forget his face, which will probably be pretty hard considering she's now permanently traumatized. And in a twist of ultimate irony, Joanna was actually saved by Judge Turpin, who was still barely alive and grabbed at Miss Lovett's dress. Miss Lovett then recognizes the beggar woman and hastily tries to drag her into the oven. Todd arrives and pushes her away, saying that he'll do it, but then he seems to recognize the woman. He notices the beggar woman's blonde hair in the light and realizes that the beggar woman is actually his wife, Lucy. Having realized that he just killed his own wife, Todd confronts Lovett about lying, and she's like, "Oh no, I didn't lie. I said she drank a poison, didn't say she died." Turns out she actually drank a poison which caused her to lose her mind. Todd then seems to immediately forgive her, however, and they break into dance about their future together. Okay, all's well that ends well. Nope, just kidding, as he immediately throws her into the oven and shuts her in there, leaving her to burn alive. As Todd mourns over his dead wife, Toby emerges, having hid in the sewer. Todd notices Toby behind him and allows Toby to slit his throat. And the film ends with Sweeney Todd or Benjamin Barker, both of them in one now dead, bleeding onto his dead wife in his arms. So even though this movie did not have a happy ending, there actually was one happy thing about this film that not a lot of films have. Aside from Lucy, obviously, every morally good character in this film survived. I mean, I don't think killing Sweeney Todd takes away Toby's morality. Who knows what happened to him next, but I mean, he killed a mass murderer who, killed the woman that he considered a mother, so I think it was a little bit justified. And considering Joanna was not killed by Sweeney Todd and all deterrents to her leaving ended up dying, you can infer that she got away with Anthony, so they survived too. So even though the movie itself didn't have a happy ending, at least two characters that deserve to have a happy ending presumably got one. As for my assessment, I have to agree with the critics on most points. I think the musical numbers were all great. Depp's singing was surprisingly really good. Clearly those musical lessons paid off because he was really good in this, as was everybody else. The plot was great. The criticism about there being too much blood, I disagree with, because the blood was excessive. But again, like I said, it was in the Tarantino style. And I love Tarantino movies. So if you don't like that excessive Tarantino blood style, especially akin to Kill Bill and Django Unchained, then you might not like this. If you're a little bit squeamish, you might not like this. And maybe the one criticism of the blood I might do have is that it did look faker than Tarantino movies. Like, obviously when blood flies everywhere, it looks fake because that's not how it works. But something about the blood, I think it was the color, to be honest. Like, the color of the blood looked faker. It kind of looked like food coloring at points, to be honest. Maybe that's honestly my big criticism, is not that there was too much blood. My criticism is the blood's color. There you go. You should have colored your blood better. That's my big criticism of this movie. They also took some risks with the castings that really paid off as well. Jamie Campbell Bower as Anthony, Jane Weisner as Joanna, and Ed Saunders as Toby had never been in a film before. This was all three of theirs film debut, and you would not know it, because they all more than held their own. And despite all the risks, ultimately I think what's shown through here was passion. Everybody in this film was clearly passionate about making it, especially Burton, who again waited like 30 years to make it, and it paid off very well in the end. But in conclusion, while I wouldn't put this on my all-time essential films list, I would put this on a couple lists. First, essential musicals. Well, again, if you're squeamish by food coloring blood, you might not like this. The music is still fantastic, and Johnny Depp is a surprisingly good singer. Everybody delivers from that apartment. I also think it's on the essential slashers list, because it's one of the best acted slasher, maybe the best acted slasher I've ever seen. And you might be thinking, oh well, it's cheating because it's got big name actors, and it does, but also it follows through with a slasher tradition. I mentioned how 3 of the actors were in their first ever film, and that's kinda usually how slasher films go about casting. They get new name actors, and the movie usually pays off by them paying off. And without those 3 doing as good of a job as they did, this movie wouldn't have paid off as well. So yeah, if you're a big musical person, watch this. If you're a big slasher person, watch this. It's on all-time lists for both. But that is going to do it for my look back at Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Thank you again, Stale, for using your points on this. And that is it from me today. Thank you, everyone, for helping me achieve 1,000 subscribers on this channel, and we continue to go up. I appreciate you guys. Again, reviews posted here on Sundays. Maybe not every Sunday, but when there is one, it'll be on a Sunday. But that is it from me today. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like. If you didn't like it, don't. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they're all in the video description, as well as names on my Patrons. Thank you to my Patreon for supporting me and my channels. I appreciate you guys. With all that being said, though, my name is Noah Taft. This has been my look back at Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, released in the year 2007. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.